Now, one of the most frustrating things when I was on active duty is I couldn't represent a service member until either he was put in pretrial confinement in the brig or he already had charges. And the problem with that is that meant the entire investigation from the government's perspective was already done. They brought the charges because they thought they had the service member sewn up at that point. For the majority of the cases that I represented while I was on active duty, I didn't even learn of this service member until he got charges. That's the first time I ever saw him. And on the rare instances where the service member kind of had an idea that he was under investigation based on the circumstances and would come into my office and say, hey, I think I'm under investigation, the best I could tell him is, hey, keep your mouth shut. And that was it. I couldn't make phone calls for him. I couldn't go investigate his case. I wasn't representing him at that point. And that's a military rule. And it's very clear. And they're not, the military doesn't mess around with it. You do not form an attorney-client relationship with a service member who comes in under those circumstances. Now, the difference for us, being on the civilian side, is that same service member comes to us and says, something's happening, we can immediately start investigating his case. And as you know, that's hugely important. Months, even years in sexual assault cases in particular can be lost as the government is out there doing all the investigation and the service member has nobody out there investigating for him. And as a result, because NCIS, CID, and OSI have a one-track mind at that point, which is we think the service member is guilty, they're only looking for evidence to show that he's guilty. And so they miss evidence that shows that he's innocent. They destroy it because they're walking through it because they're not paying attention to it, and so on and so forth. And so that's the biggest difference is the military guy just can't, the active duty guy just can't act on your behalf until it's really almost too late in many cases.